Hey, Commanders Declassified and Washington Commanders fans, welcome in. We're going to talk about this game that just happened. It was a not our
Right.
best effort. Let's
Oh,
put it that way. If you're looking behind me, you
rough.
see our new co-owner, Armon Ross St. Brown. He had a career day. I mean, he had a Hall of Fame level day against our secondary. I don't even know where to begin, Brian. Where do we want to start with this debacle, man? Why don't you go ahead and lead us off?
This was awful. This was awful to watch because we're in year 3 of Ron Rivera and this coaching staff. This coaching staff is exactly the same. Obviously, we know we switched out Sam Mills to start the year, but that's a defensive line coach. This coaching staff came into this game. They should have been prepared. They were not. They had no idea of what type of game plan they wanted to run, and they were wholly unprepared for what Detroit was going to do. I mean, we had no answer offensively or defensively for this Lions team to the point that we fell down to them 22 to nothing. That just can't happen. Teams can have a bad half. I mean, it happens all the time. Every team has a bad half, but we did not have any answer, nor did we even look like we were searching for a way to try to fix it or dig ourselves out of it. And we let a whole half go by like that, and it was a poor performance. I'm not even going to blame the players on that because the game plan simply was not good enough going into this game, and it was evident from the first snap. So. Uh,
Yeah,
I don't know what you thought about kind of the game plan or what it looked like there, but it was simply not good enough.
I was very curious about what their intention was. When they reviewed the game plan for the week, I wonder if they walked out at me like, "Yeah, this is really going to work," especially defensively, or was this one of those situations where like we know we're going to have to just hold them back? Now, one thing you can take from this is that maybe that Lions offense is real, right? They put up a lot of points against Philly, they put up points against us, so maybe it's not just a really poor offense that we let have a career day. Maybe they have a valid offense. You know what I mean? So at least
Yeah.
that there's that as a consolation. But I tell you what, they really did it with two guys. I mean, it was Swift and it was St. Brown, and that was a secret to nobody, right? Because
Exactly.
we knew what was going to happen. It just
Yeah.
we just could not stop it to save our life.
I can't even say that the Lions offense is that good because we already knew our defense wasn't very good. So the fact that they were able to score and kind of score at will on our defense isn't necessarily a surprise because our defense isn't very good. But
No,
just like you said, the fact that we knew who their playmakers were, we knew what their plan was, which was Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift, and we did nothing. We did nothing to try to limit DeAndre Swift, and we did nothing to limit Amon-Ra St. Brown. Why weren't we doubling him? Why weren't we playing man on him? Why weren't we playing a little bit tighter on him? We just left him alone. We left Jamin to cover him. We left whoever else to cover him, and he just kind of had his way, like Christian Kirk did last week. That was very disappointing to see. And again, to me, that's not on the players. That's on the coaching staff, that we had no clear plan for their playmakers, and it showed to the tune that we fell down so badly in that first half.
yeah, absolutely. And Jack Joestar, shout out to Jack, says, please talk about how non-existent our linebackers were. They ran all over us. Eric, you want to take that one?
Well, actually, I was going to come on here and say that Jamin Davis had a decent game. He actually made a few plays. He was there. They got David Mayo isolated in coverage a couple of times, which obviously you don't want, even though Jamin Davis isn't much better in coverage. Cole Holcomb, didn't hear much from him, most of the game. But yeah, I mean, it was just, I got to be honest, it looked to me, and you guys may have already touched on this in the first half, it looked like Detroit had a hold of our game plan
Yeah.
because nothing we did surprised them, and they were ready for everything offensively and defensively. They were ready for everything. And in the first half, really in the first quarter, I thought the defense held up pretty well for the most part until you could tell they were getting worn down in the first quarter because the offense couldn't help them out, stay on the field. They're giving up huge plays on special teams. It was just a bad first half all around. And as guys start to wear down a little bit, that kind of those big plays are a lot easier to happen. You start getting gashed in the run game more. Second half, I thought they came out and they played much better on both sides of the ball for the most part. The one Amon-Ra got him on that little jet sweep. That was just William Jackson or somebody not staying home. And then, toward the end of the game, they were kind of in scramble mode just to try to stay in the game. And I think they were it looked like guys trying to make plays they got caught out of position because they were trying to do everybody else's job. Just from, my untrained eye, it just looked like guys were out of position. May or may not be scheme, but it just looked like guys were trying to do too much at the end of that game, especially in the secondary. But who knows, man? That was a rough game. We're going to hear it from those Detroit Lion fans on YouTube probably. You can't fall behind that bad in the first half.
Yeah. Yam in Japan. Shout out to Yam. He's a really good dude on social media too. Make sure you follow him. He says, I'm sick. I woke up at 2 a.m. to see that terrible game on defense. Yes, the offense stunk first half, but they adjusted. Very true. The defense never did. JDR never adjusted or got players to adjust / step up, and the O-line was suspect the entire game. All right, a lot to unpack there, but I think all of it's correct. I mean, the offense scored 27 points in the second half, and we actually won the second half. I know it doesn't count for the whole game, but we won 27-14 in the second half. The problem is you got to be able to adjust during the game while the game is going on and not just during, at halftime or in between weeks. Like, there is a real game going on, and we were doing nothing on offense, and we didn't make any changes in that first half. I thought that was something that we missed, or some opportunities that we missed. The defense sheesh, that was just awful. And look, our lack of linebackers is just becoming so evidently a big problem for us, and we just don't ever seem to care. Like, we tried the one linebacker thing, we tried the two linebacker thing, we tried the Buffalo nickel, we get ran on, and we get ran on, and it just never changes. And in our secondary, let's talk about that for a minute. William Jackson was a bum. He is not playing well, Jack, and I think ever since we got him here, he has not played well. I don't even recall a good game from William Jackson. I might be putting it out of my mind somewhere, but where in the world has he been since he signed his contract with us? Brian, Marcus Ellen, and shout out to Marcus, says, I'm sorry, I wish a reporter would ask Jack Del Rio to be brutally honest about his defense and him as a coordinator. Where are you at with him as a coordinator right now, Brian?
Oh, he was gone. For me, he was gone last year. He's still here, so, we're going to have to suffer through him. But it's clear he is not concerned or interested in adapting his defense to what current NFL offenses are doing to us right now. He's just not. It's the same defense that we've watched all last year and two games this year. Yeah, he's occasionally sent up, maybe one or two more blitzes, but it's the same. The coverage is still soft zone. We're playing 10 to 12, 13 yards off the football on these receivers and just letting them have their way with us. It's really hard for me to blame the players. We're in year 3 now. So, you have two ways to go. You can sit here and tell me that the players just aren't getting it. Well, it's year 3. The defense hasn't changed. So if you're telling me the player doesn't have it, then you got to get rid of the player. It's year 3. They should know what to do. Or the other route, which is, hey, they're not good at this scheme. It's not because they don't understand it. It's just because maybe their talents and abilities don't match up with this scheme. Then that, to me, falls on the defensive coordinator, who needs to adjust it so these players can perform better, or they are able to make plays. And too often, again, I saw it today, like, we have too many guys chasing. Right. Mm-hmm. Too many times I see the back of the offensive player's jersey running away from our defense. And it's like, why do we never have anybody around him? They're always open. They're always in space all by themselves, and we have guys chasing them. So to me, that's on scheme. That's on a defensive coordinator who says, this should work. I've seen it work, so I'm just going to keep plugging away. So something has to happen here. And we saw last year, it took us, 6 games before Ron said, at that bye week with the Buccaneers, before he talked with his coordinators and, they made some adjustments. So I don't really expect a lot to change until things get a little bit worse.
Yeah. Earl East 3 says their overall roster strategy must be examined. Why is Milne the returner? He is slow and not shifty. Same for the sorry linebackers. WJ3 and Bobby McCain are trash. We can't bring in any players to replace or push them. And I think this comes down to what we've seen since Rivera's been here. It's player loyalty. Ron Rivera has an extreme amount of loyalty to his players that he brings in, and that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. I think in this instance, his loyalty to his coordinators and his loyalty to his players is a bad thing at this point. In terms of bringing guys in, I think at this point you got to live with what you got now. There's not a lot of talent out there just floating around, waiting to just sign a contract with the team and be an impact player. So I think we kind of are where we are with the talent that we have. The time to adjust that was in the offseason, and they chose not to. Keith Howard, I'm going to put this one on the screen. He says Wentz is on pace for 5,100, which is good. I mean, we haven't had a quarterback sling the ball like that in a long time. Eric, what's your evaluation of Carson Wentz's performance today?
I wasn't happy with it. A lot of those sacks were on him. He held on to the ball way too long, especially given all the pressure they were generating. The fire that he was under. There were a couple of sacks, like especially the first one that Hutchinson got early in the game. That you saw Leno completely contained him. Wentz stepped up in the pocket, was still holding the ball, and Hutchinson had time to go all the way back around the line and get him from behind. Like, that's not on the offensive line. That's on Carson Wentz. There were several instances like that where he was just, you could see a little bit of that hero ball kicking in. Now he made some great plays. The numbers are going to be there. But again, I'm not a purist as far as numbers go with quarterbacks. Cause again, we had Kirk Cousins here. I understand that numbers don't tell the whole story as much as people want to, say that they do. It's like, oh, he had a fantastic year. Okay, great. He put up big numbers, but he's got to help his offensive line out when they're under that much duress. You can't hold on to the ball that long. Some of that's on the play calling too. I don't know what. So, I think Scott Turner had that first 15 scripted plays that he wanted to run, and he stuck with it. And he was, taking a 7-step drop in the end zone on that safety. Like, what are you even doing? It's just, it was on the script. No, don't do that. Right. You got to adjust. I'm happy that Wentz is here. The one that stands out, that stood out to me today, the throw to Curtis Samuel where he rolled left, threw all the way across the field to the right. That's a play that you can run when you have Carson Wentz as your quarterback. You could, like last year with Heineke, there's no chance we run that play because, there aren't many guys who can get the ball there like Wentz can. So that's the kind of thing that I like having Wentz for. I think that, the numbers aren't going to tell the whole story. I don't think Wentz had, numerically, number wise, yeah, sure, he had a great game. I don't think he did enough to help his offensive line today. And I think, there's a lot of room for improvement. Still not down on Wentz. I think, he did, he played, he made plays when he had to make plays today for the most part, especially in the second half. But I'm not as thrilled this week as I was last week. I thought he had a better game last week, even with the 2 horrible interceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. And this is from Jack Joestar. And Brian, this is for you. Why go for a 2 the second time? Talk to us about that.
I didn't like that particular call, but I think I understand in what Ron or Scott Turner were thinking in that moment, which is, hey, if we go for 2 now, the next touchdown we get, we go up by 1, right? And now we have to force the Detroit to now come back and try to beat us. And, to me, that's silly because what you actually have to do when you're behind? You actually have to get the lead before you can start planning when you have the lead. And that's what they were doing. They were trying to plan as if they already had the lead and play chess. No, you can't play chess when you are so many points behind and you don't actually have the lead yet. And that was their mistake, was that assuming that they could get the lead, right? They should have taken the point. They were done the extra point and taken that point and moved on. And then maybe when they did tie it up, think about something like that. But that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to be smart, and I think they outsmarted themselves because they were trying to think a couple moves ahead without actually getting the lead. And it backfired on it. It blew up in their face. And then, to add insult to injury, we missed the extra point here at the end of the game as well, too.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking that maybe they went for 2 because they know they have a trash kicker who can't make extra points. He missed like 2 extra points last year. He missed one in the preseason. He missed one now. You're a kicker. You have one job. Make your stupid extra points.
Yeah.
And, especially in a big game like that.
The shine on Joey Sly is slowly coming off here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, trash kicker. Until I see otherwise, he's garbage. I'm sick of him. I'm sick of looking at him. Get off my roster.
Can we go back to maybe it was 2
Dustin
tweets
Hopkins?
Can
we go back to Dustin Hopkins?
It's too late. He's on the Chargers now. He's probably a lot happier.
Trade him a first-round pick.
the guy who was talking about Milne, why aren't we putting in Antonio Gibson? I know Brian Robinson's out, but we've got Jonathan Williams sitting there. Like, put Gibson on there. Like, we're a team that's struggling to be good. We can't afford to not use all of our assets in any way that we can. So why aren't we putting him back there?
Yeah, looks like a cartoon when he runs. You ever notice like when they start running and his little legs are churning, but he's not going anywhere? That's what I see with him. However, I don't think he had as bad a game. He got blown up a couple times and he made some bad decisions. He also had two really nice returns. He had almost a 20-yard punt return, and he had like a 35-yard kick return. So wasn't as bad because that's really all you can hope for. It's like one or two good returns a game. I thought a couple of his decisions to bring it out of the end zone backfired horribly. He needs to work on that.
Yeah. Well, we got spoiled a little bit with DeAndre Carter last year, I think, just being so explosive on plays. Yeah, I'm with you, Brian. If you have a more explosive, more athletic guy who can do it like Gibson, I would love to see it. I mean, just do something to create energy and excitement amongst the team. It doesn't have to be every return, but maybe occasionally mix it up in the game,
Yeah, I mean, we're not good enough to ignore any option or any possibility here. Like we've got to find any way and every way to win. And if that means putting Gibson out there, put him out there. If that means putting Jahan at punt return every once in a while, not every time, we got to do it.
Yeah.
Some of that goes to, and I'm not defending the decision because I'd rather have somebody better back there as well. But you think about, did they work on kick returns this week with Antonio Gibson? Did they practice punt returns? If they didn't work on it this week, I highly doubt a coach is going to put him in there. Yeah. So you need to start working him in for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, definitely. You could use a little spark back there every now and then. But I think if honestly, particularly on kick returns, if Milne fixes his decision making a little bit, I think he's still serviceable there. I'm not ready to walk away from him yet because he did, like I said, make a couple. He didn't put the ball on the ground, and he, for the most part, he made the right decisions as a punt returner. You're just not going to get a lot of returns there. As a kick returner, he really needs to be smarter about when he brings the ball out of the end zone.
Yeah. I thought that first punt return that he went lateral way too much, and he had a pretty big opening ahead of him, but he just ignored that. But I'm with you. I mean, it's not time to pull the plug yet, but maybe mix in Gibson a little bit. Yam says, I think on paper we matched up pretty well against Detroit. I agree. But Detroit made us look like we are who we are. And I think we found out today that at least right now we're a team that cannot play defense whatsoever. Now that it's early in the season, but things become evident as you go along. 2 games in a row, our defense is just terrible. So at some point that starts becoming the truth, right? Unless we figure out something that can impact that with change. And maybe the coaches are hoping for Chase Young to come back and be highly impactful. Hopefully he can come back and do what Hutchinson did for Detroit with 3 sacks and things like that, but you just never know. Maybe when Cam Curl comes back, that improves things in the run game when he helps out in the box or something, but I don't know. It's Yam, not Yam. Look at me. It's Yam. I got you, Yam. Yam in Japan. You got it, man. All right. So, Brian, your assessment of the game, the outcome, and where we are right now is what?
This was a game that really kind of showed the difference in coaching staffs. I was very critical of Dan Campbell being a cartoon character, and he shut me up. Like, he and his staff were prepared today, and you saw what a prepared football team starts out a game like. And you saw what an unprepared football team starts out a game like. We fell down 22 points to the Detroit Lions. And there was no answer. We ignored that they had Aiden Hutchinson. We ignored that they had DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown. All obvious things that we literally talked about on the pregame, or the deep dive pod that we did. All the things that we talked about, they just completely ignored. So it was very shocking to see the kind of difference in coaching staffs and their ability level. I mean, that was an eye opener. That was tough to take. That was tough to watch that. So it's this was not good, and unfortunately, this may be some foreshadowing for us for the rest of the season.
I hope not. I hope not. Idaho Jake 44, who's a Lions fan, saw our last podcast. He said, weren't y'all supposed to dog walk the Lions? 3-star
Yeah.
lineman out, starting corner out, Swift questionable. Can't wait to hear your post game pod. Well, we're
Yeah.
still here, Jake. Okay.
All right.
We're still
First
here.
of all, I said 31-27. I didn't say you guys. You guys take the fall for the boat race comments because you were all in. I was
That
I
was
did
me.
predict a win.
That was all me. I take that one. I take that one.
I was right there with it, and I thought, man, they have so many people out, and it was a blowout. It was just the wrong way. It was all Detroit who blew us out, because honestly, the score shouldn't be that close. I mean, it didn't feel like we were that close at all watching the actual game. The Detroit played well for majority of the game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to find find out some all 22 footage of Jamin Davis this week and see if I'm wrong or if everybody else is wrong. It's totally everybody else. I really thought he played a lot better today.
Yeah.
Apparently our Twitter fans don't agree with me, but I thought he actually he made quite a few plays today. I thought he probably got lost in coverage a couple times. I didn't get to see the whole, obviously without seeing a breakdown of how he played, but I think that he particularly did not have a terrible game. I won't say good or bad because I didn't watch him closely the entire game, but he did show up quite a bit.
Well, here's the thing. I was thinking about this when I was watching the game. The Dallas had Micah Parsons last year, played him one game at linebacker and said, screw this, right? Because he got turned around in coverage. They said, no. Do what you're good at, rush the passer.
Yes.
Here we are. They finally got Jamin Davis going towards the quarterback, and it produced positive results. And Eric, I agree with you. I think this is probably his most effective game that we've seen him with, even if the coverage aspect of that wasn't tremendous. I don't know what took so long for the coaches to figure out, hey, you got a linebacker that has 4.4 speed. Maybe make him run towards a quarterback where he can play without thinking so much rather than trying to turn him into Luke Kuechly. It blows my mind why it takes so long. Earl East 3 says you can't win more than 67 games, 6-2-7, with a WJ3, Bobby McCain, and Jamin Davis starting in your defense. They themselves will give up 300 yards a game. Well, it's problematic for sure. But think about this. When they were running the ball, there was no defensive lineman anywhere near the middle of the line when they were running that ball upfield. I don't know what happened or whose fault that was, but the run game starts at the defensive line, and we were not present there to stop anything.
I didn't see Bobby McCain. I didn't see where he had a terrible game either. Was I just not watching?
Yeah, he had to chase down DeAndre Swift after he broke that 40.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not his fault. I mean, that's
it was
everybody in front of him.
People's fault. But
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Jackson definitely had a bad game. He fell down on that touchdown catch and then just got that was bad. So he wasn't great today.
I mean, this
honestly, McCain and Davis I didn't think were that bad today.
This was like one of the exact reasons why Ron drafted Fidarian Mathis is because our run defense really wasn't we were 8th last year, but that's because our pass defense was so bad and everyone said, hey, why not just chuck it for 400 yards against us? So this was one of those games where Fidarian would have helped us, but clearly it was a big loss because we could not stop the run really at any point.
Man, that Fidarian pick. I'm not going there again. All right, Keith Howard says, you saw Del Rio criticize Davis. Time to criticize the other 10. Yes, and himself.
Yeah,
he has to look in the mirror big time. Mm-hmm. Bingo, Keith Howard. I do agree with that.
I think criticizing Davis may have worked. I know we were a little salty on how he criticized Davis, but maybe that's just pushing the right buttons. Yeah, he's a guy that responds to that maybe. It's hard to say, but he played better today.
Should Rivera come out tomorrow and criticize Del Rio? Will that then help Del Rio coach better?
No, Del Rio's too arrogant for that. Like you have to, you have to know the person you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yam says, who's out there on the kicker market? I don't know, but we need to find out quickly. Pull up that list. I can get.
Hey, I'm all in for Joey Sly on kickoffs. That guy can boot it through the uprights every time. That's fantastic. But you make an extra point once in a while, bro. Yeah. We clearly don't have a use for a field goal kicker because we haven't kicked one yet this year. But all we do is score touchdowns, and that's fine. But dude, make an extra point once in a while.
I like this. A safety that can't tackle is a wide receiver. Yeah, very true. Very true. As long as he can catch, that is. Eric, we're 1-1 through 2 games. Are we where you thought we'd be after 2 games?
I mean, I thought we'd be 2-0. I thought we could beat Detroit. And I still think, you play that game 10 times, it's probably 50-50. I don't think we're as bad as we looked in the first half for sure. And Detroit obviously is better than I thought they were. So good for them. But yeah, I think this team, I was hoping the defense would be a little better. The offense is going to have to score a lot of points this year. And maybe Scott needs to diversify a little bit because, like I said, the Detroit Lions were surprised by nothing in the first half. So if a little bit of film study does that, can shut down the offense like that, man, that's going to be a rough year. But I'd like to think that maybe Detroit was just not a great matchup for us. I don't know. They were certainly big on pressure, and Wentz needs to get better there. So, I picked 12-5 going into the year. We're only 1-1, so I'll go ahead and go 11-6 because this is one of the ones that I had as a win. So we need to pick one of those up, one of those losses. We need to turn that into a win. Probably Dallas last week of the season. We'll just have to boat race them. I think we're not quite as good as I'd hope we'd be at this point in the year.
Yeah, I think, and to Yam's point, maybe Detroit's just better than we all give them credit for, and that's okay too. I mean, maybe they really did hang with the Eagles last week and not just first week of the season, things happening. Brian, here we are. How confident are you in the rest of the season going forward based on what you've seen through 2 weeks?
The confidence has lowered a little bit. Again, I thought that we should have been able to handle the Detroit Lions, and clearly we weren't very close. Again, that game was not close at all. Yes, we scored some points there in that third quarter, but outside of that, it wasn't very close, and that is concerning because again, we're talking about two teams kind of in a similar rebuild, trying to get themselves out of the bottom tier of the NFL and show everyone, hey, we are a good team. And the Lions really showed themselves to be a good team. But again, they also scored 36 points against our defense. Our defense isn't very good. So I will preface, I won't put too much praise on the Detroit Lions there. But yeah, it is very concerning as we get to next week when we play Philly that they're not going to mess around. They know exactly how to beat us, and that's on the ground.
Let me just point one thing out. We may not be as good as we think we are. Detroit may be better than we think they are, but Jacksonville boat raced the Colts today. So maybe Jacksonville's a little better. So maybe we are better. It's hard to say it this early in the season. It's still everybody's still figuring out who everybody is at this point.
Matt Ryan's not working out as Irsay thought then.
Yeah, who wanted that guy?
What a bum.
What a bum. All right, folks that are in the comments and watching, here's what I want from you guys. I want you to tell me in the comments one positive so far this season that you're really hanging your hat on, and one thing that you're really concerned about. And I'm going to ask my host the same thing. Eric, what's one positive so far this season that you think we can really build on, and what's one thing you're majorly concerned about?
Well, the passing game is a positive for sure. You've got Carson Wentz has 7 touchdown passes in 2 games against 3 picks. He's got over 600 yards passing. And the receipt, he's spreading it out. Curtis Samuel, I think, has 15 catches in 2 games. Jahan Dotson's got a bunch of catches. He's got 3 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin made a bunch of plays today. Antonio Gibson is still active in the passing game. You still got McKissick. Logan Thomas had a big game today. So the passing game is working. The concern, I'll let everybody else worry about the defense. I'm going to say on offense, I don't know if you guys noticed, but we did see the resurgence of the running play today, where they just hand it to Gibson and tell him to go right or left, and it doesn't work. So I love offense. I hate handing the ball off to a running back out of the shotgun, and I hate the fact that is a staple of our offense. So I think our running game definitely needs to get better, and I hope if Brian Robinson can come back healthy that he can be a big boon to that. So, yeah, offense, both my concerns and things I'm happy about are on offense this week.
Yeah. Keith Howard says his positives are the receivers. That's a good choice there. He's worried about the defense, unwilling to adjust to the new NFL. Yes and yes. Let's see. Joseph Mosley says, my choice at safety is Forrest and Curl. I'm interested to see that combination as well. At cornerback, he wants St. Juice and Fuller. I can't agree with you about St. Juice. He gets cooked every single week.
Dude, you got to catch that pick. You got to make that catch,
You
man.
have to,
That you're down 22-0, and you can give your team the ball at the 30-yard line.
Yep.
You got to make that pick.
Absolutely.
Linebackers are not in the building, even though the head coach and DC are linebackers. That is a head scratcher for sure. The brain trust is suspect. No one will argue with you there. Let's see. Life is for the living 20 says explain the passing game in the first half. We cannot. Well, here's the deal. Everything was a deep shot, right? Or everything was thrown at the line of scrimmage. There wasn't enough variety. And to Eric's point earlier, 7-step drops when you're getting eaten up at the tackle position is not the wisest thing to do.
Into the end zone.
Well,
yeah.
Here's something we've seen, though. This is year 3, and we've seen this from Scott Turner consistently. This goes back to even 2020 when we had Alex Smith in the game on one leg. Where's the quick passing game? Where's the 3-step drop balls out? We're calling 5- and 7-step drops in situations where it just doesn't make sense, where you have a Lions defense that is bringing massive amounts of pressure and they're getting to the quarterback quickly. Why are you calling 5- and 7-step drops? This is something that we've seen from Scott Turner time and time again. Just kind of either he ignores the quick passing game or he doesn't have one available to him because he doesn't believe in it. I don't know. But we rarely use a quick passing game just to kind of get the offense going. And you said it. It's a deep shot or it's a reverse. That's all we're doing.
With the pressure they were facing today, there's two things the screen game was non-existent today. I think we tried one screen pass all day with as much pressure as he was under in the first half, and we didn't run a single screen. That's ridiculous. And the other thing is, this is a play that we get torched on repeatedly, and I have never seen Scott Turner throw this play. And that's the little swing pass, the little dump pass to the running back where he swings out. You throw it over we get cooked on that every week. Everybody has that. Carson Wentz has been running that his whole career in the West Coast offense. Add that play. Yeah, get it to McKissick or Gibson in the open field on a swing pass. We just don't ever see that play. I don't understand it.
Yeah, no. I don't get it. Around the league, Keith Howard says Trey Lance was carted off in San Francisco. It's Garoppolo time.
That's
and
my backup quarterback in fantasy. That's good intel. I gotta go hit the waiver wire.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert's hurt too, so I might be in big trouble.
That's huge.
Trade
for a first-round pick right now.
And Jack Joestar says
go pick up Carson Wentz.
The Giants lead our division right now.
2-0, yeah.
Throw up right now. Brian, give me your positive to hang your hat on and the thing that you're concerned about.
The positive thing is, Eric said the same thing, but the passing game, the vertical passing game, we are able to pick up chunks of yards quickly. If you think about what we had, like 50 yards total in the first half or 20 or something crazy like that. And then in that third quarter, that first touchdown was like 64 yards in just a handful of plays. We went down the field pretty quickly. So we do have the ability to score quickly, which is something that we haven't had in quite some time. So I do like that. That looks legitimately good that we can rely on that at times, but we can't do it all the time. But that looked good. And the one negative is I don't see any kind of urgency on defense or any willingness to adapt or change. And it still seems that we're kind of doing the same old thing, throwing the same old rock against the wall on that on the defensive side.
Yeah, Jack says Jalen Hurts is going to run all over our defense. Yeah, definitely.
We got something for Jalen. Don't worry.
Okay. My positive is that our pressure package on defense seems to be effective. We can blitz the quarterback. It's working through 2 games. My negative is what Yam said. We don't have turnovers. We're not creating turnovers, and that's a big problem. We have to fix that. Look, you can be a bad defense and still be an opportunistic defense. That's the only way that bad defenses still find a way to contribute. Now we're a bad defense without turnovers, and that is just disastrous. That we cannot be. So if we're going to be this bad of a defense in terms of giving up yardage and points, we have to at least take some things back. Get a couple turnovers, get that football back when we're not supposed to. To your point earlier, Eric, about Benjamin St. Juice, catch that on interception. Even if we did something productive after we got the punt, it took more time to do it. And we're chasing the clock at this point too. So
and we didn't do anything more productive.
If we would have, but yes, to your point. All right. Look, we are going to go ahead and get out of here. Guys, thanks for tuning in. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for all the comments and staying with us. And we'll be back this week with our regular podcast. Make sure you're subscribed, Like, comment, tell your friends. You know what? Send it to somebody in an email. Whatever you got to do. Help share, help grow. We appreciate everyone, and we will check you guys later.